So, what if all the cracks we're seeing in our world, what if they aren't actually signs of an ending, but the beginning of something totally new? In this explainer, we're going to explore a pretty radical vision of how society could transform, a shift from a system that feels like it's on the brink to one built on purpose and connection. This is all about cultivating the jewel within.
And this whole idea kicks off with this really powerful quote, the idea that all this crumbling we feel isn't an apocalypse, it's an unveiling. It just perfectly sets the stage for what's next, a shift away from desperately trying to patch up an old, failing system, and instead turning our attention to nurturing something brand new, right from the ground up.
But you know, to really understand this new world, we first have to dissect the old one. A world that was built entirely on profit, which, according to the source material, got us stuck in something called the me trap.
This quote, man, it's pretty chilling, right? Because it captures a logic that so many of us have felt at some point. The basic operating system of the old world was just cold. It was purely transactional. People weren't seen as souls who had inherent worth. Nope, we were just cogs in a machine, assets whose value went down over time and, could be easily replaced.
So, how did this whole thing actually work? Well, the entire system was built on this one single foundation. You had these incredible tools like AI and all this new tech. I mean, they had so much potential to lift everyone up, but instead, they got channeled toward one goal and one goal only, maximizing profit. And the source argues that this laser focus came at a massive cost to our communities and our sense of stability.
And that led to something the source calls a policy void. It's like, while all the leaders and institutions were chasing numbers like GDP growth, this huge gap opened up between those abstract stats and the actual real lives of people. We were measuring all the wrong things, and we were completely missing what actually helps us thrive as human beings.
And what was the result for each of us individually? Well, that's the me trap. Life became this constant, anxious scramble. Your job wasn't just something you did, it was who you were. Your entire sense of self-worth was just tangled up in how useful you were to the economy, trapping you in this endless cycle of competition and, honestly, deep insecurity. Sound familiar?
But then something happens. A catalyst arrives. A moment of crisis that forces a complete reevaluation. So let's look at how this huge event is reframed, not as a total disaster, but as something necessary and even transformative.
And here it is. This is the core question that flips the entire script. An event like mass layoffs, driven by automation. I mean, that feels absolutely catastrophic, right? But the source challenges us with this radical idea. What if it wasn't just a disaster? What if it was a divine extraction? A painful break, for sure, but an absolutely necessary one from a system that was basically consuming us from the inside out.
This so-called extraction forces the first major mind flip. We move from survival mode, where this constant fear of scarcity drives everyone to compete against each other, into abundance mode. You see, once our basic needs are met and that constant fear is gone, the focus can shift to working together for the common good. And that just unleashes this incredible wave of human creativity.
But the second shift, wow, this one's even more profound. It's all about identity. Instead of defining ourselves by our job title, we start to understand our essence, our intrinsic, undeniable value as a unique piece of a much, much larger cosmic puzzle. And suddenly, your worth isn't about what you can produce, it's simply about the fact that you are.
Okay, so if the old structures are gone, how in the world do we rebuild? If the old map basically let us right off a cliff, where do we find a new one? Well, the source suggests the blueprints aren't new at all. They're actually found in ancient wisdom that's just been waiting for us to rediscover it.
Two core concepts are offered up as the blueprints for this new world. First, Ikigai, which is a framework for rediscovering your individual purpose. And second, Ubuntu, a philosophy for rebuilding our collective well-being. So first up is Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept that asks a really simple but incredibly profound question. What is your reason for being? And it's not about your job title or how much money you make. It's about finding that personal sweet spot, that place where what you love, what you're genuinely good at, and what the world actually needs all come together. And here's where the idea of Ikigai gets a really fascinating update for our time. See, traditionally, the model includes a fourth circle, what you can be paid for. But in a new world where AI and automation are handling so much of the old economy, that piece, well, it becomes way less important. And this frees us up, maybe for the first time in modern history, to focus purely on the other three, our passions, our talents, and how we can genuinely contribute.
This next phrase is so simple but incredibly powerful. It's the foundation of the second blueprint. This is the very core of the ancient African philosophy of Ubuntu.
Ubuntu is the sacred bridge that leads us from me back to we. It teaches that we are all deeply, fundamentally interconnected. My humanity is completely tied to your humanity. It's the perfect antidote to the painful isolation of that me trap, reminding us that we can only ever truly flourish together.
So what happens when we put all of these pieces together? We get a map, a really clear guide that shows the old world right next to the new one, and it shows us the pathway to get from one to the other.
Okay, let's take a slow walk through this because it's really the heart of the whole idea. On the left, you've got the me world. It runs on competition, defines us by our jobs, success is all about profit, you get the idea. In the middle, those are the transition points, the crises that force the change. And then on the right, that's the we world. A new reality built on collaboration, on our intrinsic essence, and a totally new definition of success, education, and society itself, all rooted in this idea of Ubuntu.
So what does this new blueprint actually build? It's more than just some political or economic shift. The source calls it a spiritual infrastructure, a completely new way of organizing our world based not on superficial metrics, but on our deepest human truths.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway here? I mean, if profit is no longer the goal, what takes its place? What becomes the true measure of wealth in this new world?
And this is really the bottom line of the whole thing. The isolated me has to die so that the connected we can finally live. And the currency that powers this new world, it's not money, it's love. And not in some sentimental, fluffy way, but as a fundamental force, the actual energy of connection, compassion, and creative service.
And that's really the final hopeful message here. This whole chaotic transition, it isn't about what was lost. It's about being liberated from a system that was holding back our human potential. The real work of building, of connecting, of creating from a place of genuine purpose, well, that's only just beginning.
So we'll leave you with this final, personal question. If you were truly freed from that me trap, free to discover your ikigai and connect through Ubuntu, what is the unique gift, that jewel inside of you, that you are truly here to share with the world?